All right, anyway, so we don't have that much time. I want to very briefly say something about our work at Christian Friends of Israeli Communities. What has developed into a lot of teaching like this and a lot of work that we're doing on relationships between Christians and Jews and Bible study and all that, that is really a byproduct of what our work is, and our thrust and the goal of our work is to talk about Israel and to talk about Judea and Samaria, the area otherwise referred to as the West Bank. An area that the world looks at and says, oh, Israel doesn't belong there. Israel is illegally occupying the land. And what we're doing is we're going to Christians all over the world and we're teaching the truth. The truth both biblically, which I'm sure you all know. You know that God promised the land to Abraham. I don't have to tell you that. But connecting that biblical truth with the history of the past 50 or 100 years and the reality in Israel today. Some of you have been with me in Israel, and I know Linda, every time she brings a tour, and you brought a lot of tours in the last few years, in the last decade or so. We always are there to provide a program, to schedule their time in Judea and Samaria, and we're doing this for tour groups from all over the world. We have our own tours as well, usually once a year. In 2019, we're going to have 2 tours, but one of them I have the information on already, which is out there. And we're doing whatever we can to get people to have a more fundamental understanding of what is Judea and Samaria, why are the settlements there, why they're legitimate. And we also give Christians the opportunity to provide financial support, not only for our educational work, but also, and even more importantly, to help the people in the land. We are working with a whole host of people and needs in communities throughout Judea and Samaria. And in a few minutes, we'll see a film that will tell you more about that. But I must, before I go, just give you a quick overview historically. If some of you are not familiar, if some of you know this already, go to sleep. Now's the time to take a break. But I gave you these brochures. Take them home, read them. Really, there's a lot of information. But I need to just show you this map, because this map will just make sure we're all on the same page. It's in this brochure. You have the map. Just open it. And this is a map of the center of Israel. We have Jerusalem here, and the Mediterranean Sea, Tel Aviv, the Dead Sea, the Jordan River is here along Israel's eastern border. Here in the middle of the land, we have an area surrounded by a green line. That line represents the pre-67 lines. When Israel became a state in 1948, it was immediately attacked on all sides by 5 Arab countries, way outnumbering Israel, with real armies. Israel had no army until that minute, had no army, suddenly had to have an army and fight a war all at the same time. And that's when I talk about the natural coming together with the supernatural. I mean, yes, everybody picked up arms, and there were people scouring America and Czechoslovakia for arms to be smuggled in, because, I don't know if you know, America imposed an arms embargo against Israel when Israel became a state. Like, insane. And so, yes, they were doing all this, but come on. You have to be a moron not to realize that it was miraculous that these people survived and Israel came into existence. But we didn't have this part, though. And there's only so much, so many miracles you can rely on here. In 1949, there was a ceasefire, which basically just represented where the army stopped. Jordan was here, and north, west, and south is the state of Israel. Now, this area here is the heart of biblical Israel. This is the area we call Judea and Samaria. Judea south of Jerusalem, Samaria north of Jerusalem. And right here, near Shechem, we have the community called Elon Moreh, which is Hebrew for the Oak of Moreh. That's where God first promised the land to Abraham. We have Hebron here, which is the first place that Abraham bought real estate, I like to call it the first Jewish purchase of real estate in the land of Israel. These areas and more that are so biblically significant were completely off limits to Jews from 1948 to 1967. And even so, Israel would never have attacked Jordan to get that land, even though it was so central to who we are and to what our biblical heritage is. But in 1967, Jordan attacked Israel from here as part of a concerted attack joining Egypt and Syria. And Israel then not only repelled the attack, but drove the Jordanians east of the Jordan River, which is where they've been ever since. And we then had this land back. And right after that war, there was a lot of, first of all, an outpouring of amazing joy, particularly Jerusalem, which until that point, Israel was not in the old city of Jerusalem. We weren't in north or east or south Jerusalem, only a little part in the west. And also, again, had no access to our holiest sites in Jerusalem. But right after that war, suddenly everybody was going to the Western Wall and the Temple Mount, the old city, and it was just amazing. But people were also going to Shechem and Hebron and Bethlehem and Bethel and all these places from the Bible, which had been completely off limits. But then the next step was, do we settle? And the government didn't want to make a decision, because they were thinking at that point, maybe we need to hold this land as a bargaining chip, and if we offer some of it to the Arabs, maybe in exchange for this land, they will give us peace. Well, the Arabs immediately said, no peace, no recognition, no treaties, nothing, leave us alone, we hate you, we're going to, do whatever we can to regroup and try again next time. And so the government sat on it and it did nothing. But it was a group of young people, already starting right a few weeks after the war, 1967, that said, no. And go back to Ezekiel 36. It's this idea, Here God opened the doors and enables us to go to the mountains of Israel. What are we doing? Sitting in Tel Aviv and waiting for God to bring down the houses from the heavens? It doesn't work like that. You got to do something. God has opened the doors. That's the call, And so they understood that, and they started going through those doors. And initially, it was a struggle, because the government was afraid of international pressure, and the government didn't know what they wanted. But little by little, they succeeded, and they created the community of Kfar Tzion in Judea, and then Hebron in Judea. But it wasn't until 1974 that things really took off. A community of Kedumim was founded in Samaria at the end of 1975. The real turning point happened in 1977, when Menachem Begin became prime minister. And then he was a man of faith who totally subscribed to this idea of the settlement movement. This is our land that God has given us. It is our land legally, it is our land historically, it is our land biblically, and there's no other people that have a right to control this land and settle this land than the Jewish people. Now, we never came in with an intention or practice of throwing out the Arabs. There's plenty of land for everybody. We went from the beginning to settle the barren hilltops where the Arabs never settled because they couldn't figure out how to get the water up there. And that's where we went, and that's where we settled. And thanks to Menachem Begin, that became official government policy in 1977. What began as a handful of people, nobody, not a single Jew living in the land before middle of June actually before August of 1967. Today, we are close to 450,000 Jews living in Judea and Samaria. And it's amazing. Yes, you can clap. It's amazing. And that's really what we're celebrating, and this is what we're teaching about. And it's not easy, because even to this day, when the people talk about boycotting Israel, when they talk about condemning Israel, they're always focusing on the so-called settlements. And they're always presenting us as being colonizers and illegal occupiers, when in fact, we're coming back to our homeland. And we're settling the area that was designated for us from the very beginning. And frankly, the first to designate that land to us was God. And that counts a lot. Anyway, that's what we're about. And I just want to show this film before we go too long, okay? And this will tell you more about our work. And I hope all of you will decide to join us and get involved. Thank you.
One more time. Can we thank Sondra for